Well, I wouldn't say I'm happy that I made the decision. I wouldn't say that my life has been particularly happy over the last 5 years. It's been stressful beyond comprehension for a variety of reasons. And I would say being pilloried on a regular basis publicly is definitely part of that. But you know, you make your decisions in life, and I decided when I was very young, I'm in my mid-20s, that I was going to say what I believed and see what happened. I talked to you earlier in the talk about adventure, you know, about the adventure of truth, and I don't think I'm happy about what has happened, and I certainly have dragged my family through their fair share of, well, both hell and also incomprehensible opportunity. It's expanded our lives in both directions to a tremendous degree, but it's certainly been an adventure. It's not been dull, and I don't believe that it was a mistake. But I can't say, you know, that it's made me happy. The consequences have been far too overwhelming for it to be encapsulated in an emotion like happy. And it's not like I don't long for happiness. That would be just fine. My life is very, very complicated, to say the least.
Do you regret it? I guess might be a better way to put it. Do you regret your decision?
I have my moments where I wish that I had my life back the way it was. I had a very good life. You know, I love being a university professor, and it's unlikely that that will occur again for a variety of reasons. I'm on leave at the moment. I loved my clinical practice. I had a lovely life, and that's been terribly disrupted. But it doesn't matter, because I made my decision long ago that I was going to say what I believe to be true and take the consequences. And so, see, I think that we talked at the beginning of this interview about gratitude, right? And I said it's a form of courage in the face of the catastrophe of existence. And so it's an attitude that you adopt voluntarily and that you have to practice. It's a decision to be grateful. It's a decision. And here's a decision in relationship to the truth. And I believe that this is something that everyone decides for themselves, whether they know it or not. See, I believe that the consequences of telling the truth whatever happens as a consequence of telling the truth is the best thing that can happen. It doesn't really matter how it looks to you at the moment, or maybe even across the years. Because you have to, it's an article of faith in some sense. Do you believe that reality is better constituted as a consequence of truth or falsity? If you believe that reality is best constituted as a consequence of truth, then you have a responsibility to speak the truth. And you can't assess the consequences and say, well, that was a mistake, because part of the decision that reality is best constituted as a consequence of the truth is the decision that no matter what happens is the best if it's a consequence of telling the truth. And so that's what I conclude. It's like, this is what happened because I said what I had to say as clearly as I could say it. And that's as good as it could be. Now, whether or not that's good, well, it's good compared to all possible alternatives, all possible realistic alternatives. That's an article of faith as far as I'm concerned. You know, our culture is predicated on the idea that truth in speech is of divine significance. It's the fundamental presupposition of our culture. Well, if you believe that, then you act it out. You take the consequences. You're going to take the consequences one way or another, you know. So, you want the truth on your side? Or do you want to hide behind falsehoods?